Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the People's Success Circle podcast. My guest today is Michelle Shinagawa. Michelle and I met each other last month at a conference in Indianapolis. And once I met her, I realized that my listeners, all of you, could benefit from learning about Michelle and her expertise because it applies so perfectly to the people side of the business as we are looking for ways to combat burnout and increase wellness. There are some unique things that Michelle is going to teach us today. So, Michelle, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Mindy, thank you so much for having me. And hi, everyone. I'm very
Yes, yes.
excited. And I'm learning a lot from you about networking and LinkedIn. And I'm so grateful that I met you at the conference.
Great. Yes, I'm so grateful to meet you too. I love expanding my network. You know, it's naturally something I love to do. But the other benefit of expanding my network is that I get to meet people that bring in different perspectives, right? And so I've been in the world of human resources for over 30 years. And what you're going to talk to us about today are two things that I've never integrated into the workplace culture. And so I'm always looking for gosh, what's another tool to have in our toolbox as leaders or employees that we can use to make work a better place to be, right? Regardless of where that is. So, Michelle, tell us a little bit about yourself. I'd love to hear a little about your background and what you do today.
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up in the beautiful countryside of Osaka. And I used to be a really shy girl. So I would never raise my hand in a classroom. And I'll say things like, I don't need to learn how to speak English because I'll never leave Japan. So imagine my surprise when my dad got a job in the States and we all moved here when I was 17.
Okay, 17.
Yeah.
And did you change to go to high school here?
I did the senior year high school here, which is if you've ever been to Japan, the culture is completely different, not just the language. So
Yes.
it took me a lot to adapt. And in the beginning, I never thought that I'm able to adapt to American culture or be able to speak English. Thankfully, with friends
Yes.
and their help, I'm able to now. But I am a Reiki master teacher, and I'm also a KonMari organizing consultant. And how I came about it is because when my dog Cliff was 6 years old, he was limping with his arthritis.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if do you have any pets?
I do. I
You
do.
do.
We have cats, but
We
we
have
have had
cats.
dogs. We
Okay.
currently have cats, but we used to be a dog family. Now we're 100% a cat family for now.
Well, if you're a crazy dog or cat mother,
Yes.
right? And then if the listener is, you probably understand when my friend came to me and said, I'm taking Reiki class this weekend and I heard it's great for humans arthritis. Maybe it works for your dog. And I'm like, okay, sign me up.
Yeah.
So
We don't like
I
to
just,
see our pets in pain, right?
right? Yeah. So I
We
was just
yeah.
like, I'll do anything for my dog. And I didn't know what Reiki was at the time. Reiki is originally from Japan, but I never heard of it. I was not a
Mm.
spiritual person at all. But after
Mhm.
I went and took the class and gave my dog a couple little Reiki sessions, he stopped limping. It
Oh
didn't
my
take that
goodness.
long. So it was pretty amazing. But I think my dog guided the universe for me to learn Reiki because what I noticed is that my anxiety and I used to be really shy and I had so much anxiety
Mm.
because I was working at one of the top advertising agency on Madison Avenue in New York City. And it's a
Mm.
very stressful place. And
Yes.
right, like if you know advertising agency. And so I felt like I was, imposter syndrome, right? Like I'm working as a graphic designer at one of the top ad agency in New York City. And here I am, a little girl from Japan who's like I don't
Mm.
even speak perfect language and everything. And so I used to be really stressed. And then I noticed once I learned Reiki that I was very peaceful. All these mind, like those talks, that was going away. All the chatter was going away. And then like people started coming to me like, Michelle, how come you're so peaceful? We're under this really tight deadline, right? Like they will come to me so that they can get a little bit of an oasis from me.
Yeah. So you were modeling it in a very high stress environment at
Yeah.
work and people start to notice.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why I kept taking more Reiki classes because I really felt like wow, I would rather be in this place of not
Yes.
having all these mental chatter and negative talks.
Mhm.
And and then it got to a point where my choice was either stop learning or become Reiki master teacher.
Mm.
And I'm
Mhm.
like, there's no way I'm gonna be in front of people teaching because I was too shy.
Mhm.
But
And now you're speaking on stages,
yes,
Michelle.
I know, right? It's
So
crazy.
you've come full circle.
Yeah. So that's how I started with Reiki. And then I learned so many ways to be more mindful.
Mhm.
And there are really great tools that I learned now that I teach my students and at my workshops or my keynotes
Mhm.
how to release anxiety very
Yeah.
quickly.
So tell me somebody who's never heard of Reiki before. I'm sure there are people listening who have never heard of it. So
Mhm.
let's talk about what it is first and then how you teach people to use these techniques
Mhm.
within the workplace.
Sure. So Reiki is a Japanese energy healing modality. And you know how when you have a headache, you often put your hands
Mhm.
on, right? And it feels better.
Mhm.
So it's you using Reiki is translated as universal life force energy. So
Okay.
you're using the universal life force energy. I know it sounds a little woo woo for some of you maybe, but you're actually using your hand healing energy or you're gathering the energy to be able to heal yourself. So
Mm.
we all have that ability, but what I do is teach how to utilize that.
And so when we were prepping, you mentioned that you could even physically show us
Mhm.
an example of
Yes.
that. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see it. And if you're not, if you're watching anywhere else that the podcast is aired, head on over to YouTube to see a visual demonstration as well. So now tell us a little bit more about what that looks like for someone when you're trying to help them use the energy productively to
Mhm.
reduce their stress.
Yeah. So if you are someone who's entrepreneur or working at a corporate place, there's I think even anyone I feel like
Anyone,
nowadays,
even
right?
if you're a stay-at-home mother or
Yes.
stay-home father,
Yeah.
right? Or caring for someone, the stress can be there for sure.
Yeah. So when you do have stress, what often happens is you just keep taking it on and taking it on, and you keep taking care of other people. So
Mhm.
at my workshop, I share a few of the tools to be able to, first of all, release it. So I feel
Mm.
like, affirmation is great, meditation is great. There's many things that can help you to feel the ease or peaceful. But
Mhm.
my recommendation is first release whatever that is bothering you, as
Okay.
opposed to putting it on top of it. Because what we often do is like for me, I keep
Mhm.
going like, I am confident on top of like, I'm no one, right? No one cares
Right.
about me. And then that doesn't, in our head, you often just go, who am I kidding?
Right. So that makes a lot of sense because when we think about positive affirmations and things, it's hard to add those on when we're also having that conflicting thought of, I'm going to get on, have achieved my goal. Or, on the flip side, the other part of your body and your mind is saying, no, you're not good enough to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you have an important meeting that you need to walk into, then
Hmm.
instead of just saying, I got this, right? I am confident. This is what I share with my students and audience to do. This is one of the Reiki techniques called dry bathing. And I'm gonna have you do it with me, Mindy, on the second
Sure.
round, but I'll show you how to do it. It's
Okay.
very easy. You just go like this.
Okay. Is it multiple times each time?
Yeah, so let me show you how to do it, and
Sure.
then maybe even if you're listening on podcast, maybe you'll be able to follow along. So bring your right hand over to your left shoulder. Yeah, and you go crosswise.
Across your body.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then left hand over to the right shoulder, and then you go
Okay.
all the way through the across the torso, and then now
Mhm.
back to the right hand over to the left shoulder, and then you go across, and now left hand out.
Okay. Left hand
Left hand
out.
out. Yeah, I
Okay.
know this is the tricky part, right? And then
Yes.
bring your right hand over to the left shoulder, and then
Okay.
brush all the way to your fingertips. And then my right hand out and left hand, brush all the way
Okay.
to the
All the
fingertip.
way through. Yes.
And then now back to your left arm out and right hand over to your left shoulder and go all the way. Yeah. So left hand. So I know
Yes.
we're on
Okay,
opposite
okay,
side.
I'm
So
following you.
left hand out, right hand over to the shoulder, and then brush all the way through. So what makes it a little bit hard is because it's three.
Yes.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And what this does, it's activating your meridian and
Okay.
also it's releasing the excess energy. So if you feel nervous or if you just had a meeting with some people who just like they just like gave you like a whole bunch of negative energy. So you can use it to release whatever that you don't want to hold on to anymore. And then you can go into, I am confident I'm going to nail this meeting.
Interesting. And so when you do that, when you're doing the release, are you
Mhm.
thinking about the self-doubt and letting it go?
Yeah. So can we do it one more time with the breath? If there's
Sure.
anything that's bothering you, which, you're always so positive and smiling, so there may not be anything that's bothering you, but if there is
There are
something.
definitely things that, I carry very heavily, for sure.
Okay, okay. So just bring that in and
Mhm.
then we're gonna do this together. And then this time around, we're gonna do it with the breath. So
Okay.
I'm gonna guide you through, but just bring that into your mind
Okay.
and then maybe in your body. And then now let's bring your right hand over to your left shoulder
Okay.
and then breathe in and breathe out with the intention of releasing whatever that's on your mind. And then
Okay.
now left hand over to the right shoulder. Breathe in. Breathe out with the intention of releasing that. Bring your right hand over to the left, breathing in and breathing out. And now left hand out, breathing in and breathing out, releasing. Now right hand out, breathing in and breathing out, releasing.
Okay.
And left hand out, breathing in and breathing out.
Very calming.
Right? How is it?
Yes. I mean, in the middle of a podcast, I don't think I expected to have it feel calming, but that felt really, really calming.
Good. Yeah.
And yeah, that's really interesting. So tell me about, like, that's one exercise, right?
Yes.
So is that a good sample of what the techniques someone could do
Mhm.
to have Reiki help with their mental health and their balance in their life?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it more things like that?
Yes, there are quite few things that was taught in Reiki studies that I specifically bring into the workshop. So I
Mhm.
normally teach 2-day Reiki workshop where you learn to do self-care, you learn to give other people session, but not everyone's interested in learning to become a healer or
Right.
take time, right? But in my 90 minutes workshop, I teach few of the Reiki driven technique to be able to bring yourself into center and then release things so that way you don't have to carry around. And
Mm.
and then also I'm also a KonMari consultant and
Mhm.
which is a Japanese
Yes.
art of
I wanna
decluttering.
learn more about that.
Yeah, so I combine them, right? So one of the key point about KonMari method is that you release what no longer serves you with
Mm.
gratitude. And then
Yes.
you bring in what sparks joy. So when you're letting go, right? Like maybe your boss is not so kind and then got you upset. Then in that moment, instead of like you can
Yeah.
just be like, thank you for teaching me compassion. Thank you for letting me know what I didn't do right. And then let it go. And then bring back whatever positivity you want to bring in. If you want to use affirmation, if you want to use meditation, but
Right.
as you see, it was once you learn it, it's very quick.
Yes. Yes, it is very quick, and it's interesting how that ties in with KonMari, which I wanna talk about in a second. When you think about Reiki in the example you just gave us, we're releasing the things that are bogging our mind down and our heart and our spirit and things like that. And then it's really similar with the physical things within KonMari. So that's an interesting combination. Did you start with Reiki and then go
Mhm.
into KonMari? And then how did that work for you?
Yeah, so I started with Reiki in 2001, and then I started with KonMari in 2017. So there's quite a bit of a time, and it's
Yes.
very interesting. They're both from Japan, and I used
Mhm.
to be the messy one. So I was the one that had stuff all over the place, sock on the floor, avalanche from the closet. That's why. And then I tried everything else. Yeah. So if you're not tidy person, maybe you may be able to relate to me.
No, I am in the middle. I would say some things in my life are super tidy and then some of them are not.
Okay,
So
okay,
I
okay.
would say I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not necessarily always a tidy person.
Well, I was like all the way down on not tidy person.
Mhm.
And I tried everything and nothing worked. I would try for a whole weekend and then next weekend everything is a mess. And when I
Mhm.
came to KonMari method, it actually worked. And I was looking forward to tidying my home. That was the biggest thing. And
Yes.
what I loved about it is that we focus on spark joy. No,
Mhm.
oh, I'm so stupid. I bought this expensive thing that I didn't
Yes.
do anything for 5 years.
Yes. Yes. So before we go into KonMari and how that can help in the workplace, tell the listeners what KonMari is.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, so KonMari method is a Japanese art of decluttering where what's specific about that is that we focus on keeping what spark joy as opposed to throwing things out that you don't need anymore. There's many method where like, okay, if you buy one, you throw one away, or you can only have 30 pairs,
Yes.
right? This is
Yes.
all about you can keep as many as you want as long as it sparks joy. So that's
Mm.
where we differ. And
Okay.
that's what I loved. I don't want to be limited. I tried the other method and I don't want to be limited to I can only keep certain amount.
Yes.
And I also did not want to focus on negative,
Right.
right? Like, oh, how come I have so many things? I'm stupid. Like when I was,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
I have
Like,
a problem. I have too many shoes, right? Right. Type
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
expensive, but it hurts my feet. What am I doing wrong? So in the past, when I was working with other method, I tend to go into more negative space and I beat myself up and I wasn't interested in doing that anymore. That's why every weekend I'll do it and then I'm like, I don't want to do this again. But with
Mhm.
KonMari method, it was all about choosing what sparks joy. And what's amazing about it is it's not just physical decluttering. It's also training yourself to focus on what spark joy. So with your life path,
Mm.
when you have to make a decision about your food, when you have to make a decision about your
Mhm.
career, anything, you focus on what sparks joy.
And so someone can learn that to understand what things spark joy and what doesn't. It's a process of learning.
It's a process of learning. And so with KonMari method, if we were to do home, we go through every single item
Mhm.
and then
Every
decide
item
whether
and
it sparks
determine.
joy or not.
And how does someone determine if something sparks joy? Is it a series of questions that they
Yes.
ask?
Yeah. So number one is that it sparks joy,
Mhm. Yes,
right?
you just feel joyful when you think about it and having it.
Yeah. And then there's other questions when my clients are going through them and I don't know, I can't decide. Then I'll ask other series of questions.
Mhm.
And but also what's great about it is that as people are going through focusing on what spark joy, let's say they're going through their books that they haven't looked at for 10 years.
Right.
And then they may look at something that go, "Oh yeah, I really wanted to do engineering." Right? They look at the
Mhm.
book and then they may not have touched it for 10 years, but then they look at it and this really sparks joy. And often people change their careers
Yes.
or right start to reintroduce what they used to have passion for by
Mhm.
going through your items. So that's
Right.
not just moving stuff to a garbage method, but it's
Mhm.
actually seeing your life through the lens of what spark joy for you. And it's only you can. You're the only one that can do it. I can't just come and tidy everything up for you because it's a deep work from
Yes.
inside and how that's relate to workplace
Yes.
is
Because I can imagine there are people who are listening and saying, "Well, what if nothing in my office sparks joy?" Right?
yeah.
I don't know. I think, people think of KonMari as something they use at home, but
Mhm.
when you and I were talking, it really is something that can be, I would imagine, even used like in your car or in your office, or anywhere where you are surrounded by things. But also, I'm curious too, we can talk about this if it also works for you to reduce digital clutter.
Yes. Yeah. So one of the things that I'm curious if you know is, do you know how many hours average American workers spend looking for things?
I don't know how many hours. No.
Apparently, it's about 40 hours a year.
A
Yeah, so
a
that's
year
about
looking for things.
right,
So, like, 1 whole week.
one whole week.
Yes. Of
So
work. Yes.
that's
Looking for things.
average Americans, right? That
Yes.
is a lot of that could be vacation instead of looking for things. But that happens because everything is all over the place. And I mean, I had that happen to me too, right? Like I'm
Yes.
always like when I used to be before KonMari method, I'm always looking for where did I put my notes? Where did I put my papers?
Yes.
And then it's costing company a lot of money to
Mm.
just
Yes.
keep having people look for that. I saw that it's estimated about $89 billion
Wow.
annually.
I believe that, Michelle, because, I only it's just me and Laura on my team, and there are times when both of us will be looking for something, right?
Mhm,
And it was
mhm.
like, it could only be within my workspace or her workspace, right? When you think of the cost, the physical cost of being unorganized, that's a huge dollar amount. You said $89 million?
$89 billion annually.
$1 billion
Yeah.
of lost time
Mhm.
costs us looking for things. That's huge, by the way. That's a huge number. But also, I would imagine just the physical anguish
Yes.
of the frustration that we feel when we're not organized. I know for me, I beat myself up, right? Like, why can't I find this? Why is this not organized? And I would imagine a lot of people feel that way. I would
Yeah.
imagine so.
Yeah. So when you work at a place, whether it's your digital computer desktop or the physical computer desktop that are cluttered, that also there's another study that was done that scientists at UCLA did the study that said being surrounded by too many things increased cortisol levels, which is
Mm,
the stress
stress.
hormone. Yeah. So that
Yeah.
could lead to depression, insomnia, and other mental disorders.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if you notice, but when you walk into like hotel room, somehow you feel better and maybe you may feel more creative or more productive
Yes.
because there's no
Yes.
clutter.
Right, because there's no clutter.
Yeah.
I mean, I always feel better when there's less clutter on my laptop or in my environment. My husband and I spent the weekend last weekend cleaning out our garage.
Mhm.
And, my husband is retired military. And so we have moved a lot. I moved a lot before marrying him. He has moved a lot. Then we've moved a lot together. And so every time you move, you accumulate. And, it's interesting that for military people, the movers come, pack up your stuff. And let's say you have beautiful curtains that worked in one home, but they may not work in the next home. So you tend to keep them though, because the next home might be perfect for them. Right. And so over time, all those decisions of I may not need this when I live in North Carolina, but when we move to Seattle, I'm going to need this again. Right. There's so much of that. But now he's retired. And now those boxes have been sitting there for a long time. And it took us 2 days to go through everything that we had, and we didn't do the "Does this spark joy?" That is interesting, we did not do that, but I did find myself really gosh, now when we pull into the garage, it just feels so good. Every time we pull in, we're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so great," because now we're not gonna move again, and now we're not gonna collect all of the things that we might have collected before with all those moves. So just that physical release and the feel good, I feel so much less stressed when I pull
Yeah.
into the garage now because I know that there's not years of boxes sitting there just taking up dead space, right?
Right. Congratulations. And I've worked with retired military clients, KonMari in their home. So I know exactly what you're talking about because you guys move so much that you don't know
Yes,
what you're going to need next. And
right.
so you often end up taking
You just
everything
keep
with you.
adding and
Yeah.
adding and adding things, and like we used to live in Florida and we bought snorkeling gear and because we loved to snorkel so much and we haven't lived in Tampa in about 17 years, and we've only used our snorkeling stuff twice, and we're not moving back. So we just donated it, you know? But it's like you have to really think through the things, and I love it. So what advice do you have for people in the workplace? Regardless of if it's a restaurant workplace or an office, it doesn't even matter. But what are some of the steps you would advise them to take to declutter their workspace?
Yeah, so my recommendation is start with something physical first
Mhm.
and then go to
Okay.
digital.
Okay.
So KonMari method is made so that there's a specific process, and
Mhm.
the first is visualizing. The most important part is visualizing
Mm.
your ideal workspace.
Okay.
Like you hear this all the time, right? Like, do you want to go to Miami or do you want to go to San Francisco? So you want to know what
Right.
your vision is. So visualize that first.
Okay.
And then you move on to working on the clothing. So if it's like a restaurant where a chef has clothes, right? They may have the chef hat and all that stuff. Then go through the clothing first
Mhm.
and then go through the step with does it spark joy?
Okay.
And then if it doesn't, let go. And then there's much more deeper level than that. But I'm just going to give you the overview of that. And then when you let go, send with a gratitude, right? Thank you, goodbye. And maybe, just like what you were saying, donate to places they may be able to use. So not just adding to the landfill, but
Yes.
finding people like I use Buy Nothing Group. I don't know if you know.
I've heard of this buy nothing groups.
Yes, Buy
Yes.
Nothing
So
Groups.
you go there first to see if you need it. So if somebody has something versus you go there first. Is that right? And then if there's nothing that somebody wants to give, then you would go buy it.
Right, but also you can give them away. So if there are things that
Yes.
you don't
Yes.
need anymore, right? Then I normally just post it on Buy Nothing group to see if anyone wants it. And then they all most of the time they come with gratitude. It's like, oh, my mom really needed this. I'm so happy. Instead of just
Yes.
tossing it and adding to the landfill. So finding and then some things may require a little bit of a research on where to go donate. Like I had these Cookie Monsters that I'm a collector. So I had like about 40. And when I did my original process, about 20 of them did not spark joy for me anymore. And it's interesting, right? Like
Yeah.
I had to go through the steps and then I did not want to just go donate to Goodwill because there's a good chance it's going to sit in the basement in the dark. I wasn't sure
Right.
what was going to happen to it. And I found one of my Reiki students' mom owned a daycare. So
Yes.
I donated there, and then I'm hearing how the kids are so happy. So that not, it's the process of letting go, but also being responsible and taking care of the item that
Mhm.
brings more joy into our heart. So
Yes.
so how you let go is also important too, and it's
Mhm.
the process. But anyway, so the clothing, visualize
Yes.
clothing, and then you go through books
Mhm.
and then you go through papers, and then you
Okay.
go through the what we call komono, miscellaneous items. So any miscellaneous items go in that category, and then you
Okay.
you go through sentimental items. So that's what we often do is I have some time this weekend. Let's go through my photos.
Yes.
Right? And then it's like
Yeah.
the day's over and I don't know like I don't know what to do with it because what
Yes.
right? Like what we do
You've
is
gone through it, but now you don't know where to put it.
that too, yes. Yeah,
Yes.
so what we do is we go by category that are easiest, and then we
Okay.
build our spark joy, so that
I see.
way we can make more decisions easily when we hit things like sentimental items, and then also after you do sentimental items, you have all these space, and then you
Yeah.
find a permanent location for each items then. So that
I see.
that's the physical part. And
Yeah.
then it's much easier to do the physical stuff first because you can see
Okay.
them.
Yes.
Then you can go through non-physical items like your phone, your computer,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
also you can start to commemorate your time, your network, your meetings.
Interesting. So I love that. So when you think about applying it to the workplace, most workplaces might not have clothing. So you would start with books and
Mhm.
then paper.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. Just those two things alone
Yeah.
will help so many people, right?
Yes. Yes.
Because for me, I know when some of the things my husband got his master's degree about 10 years ago, and he's been hanging on to the physical books
Mm.
of learning there. And he was able to let them go finally this weekend because he was like, honestly, in this world of technology, I can find anything I need online. So I don't need the actual physical book anymore. Right. And so I love that you're talking about the things that can also really impact someone's workplace. And
Yeah.
then, so how would you KonMari your time?
So the way you will command your time is you write out everything that
Hmm.
you're going to do, right? It could be computer. And then you choose what sparks joy. And then also
Okay.
you choose what you need to do, right?
Yes. Because
There are
sometimes at
some
work you just have to do
responsibilities.
it, right? Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's somebody listening, like I said, who's like, oh, but that meeting doesn't spark joy. Shoot, I still have to go. Right.
And then you let go of the things that doesn't spark joy for you that you can
Hmm.
actually let go. Because when you look at them, you realize, wait, I thought that I was obligated to do this every week, but
Yes.
I can actually say no. And it doesn't spark
Hmm.
joy for me. So
Yes.
you start to KonMari and then you prioritize based on the urgency
Yes.
and then also how much it sparks joy. But also when you're scheduling this, that you can put
Hmm.
like, okay, this one sparks joy. This is more obligatory, right? So you can mix and match them. Not just like you're not at the effect of, okay, I have to do these things, but you can see how you can make your life spark joy, and then also things that doesn't spark joy for you but you need to do, you can make it, you can think of a way to make it more spark joy.
Hmm.
So
I think
let's,
that's true.
right,
Yeah.
like I
Yeah,
know
how do I
that,
make it just 1% more joyful?
right.
I mean, or even I would imagine the expressing gratitude. There's some things with my own company. I mean, I run my own company. There are some things that I don't find joyful, but
Mhm.
I want a very well-run organization and I want to keep bringing in revenue, so I'm going to keep doing it, you know?
Yeah, and like, let's say if you look at your meetings, right? Because I know you do a lot of meetings, and we often schedule half an hour or an hour meeting. But then if
Yes.
you do 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, you have no time for bathroom. You have no
Yes.
time for food, right? So
Right.
maybe when, if you want to command your meetings, first of all, you can say no to the one that doesn't spark joy for you. That's not bringing, you can look at it, right? Like write it out, look at it and say, this is not really bringing me joy. And it's also not practical for me. You can let go of the gratitude, but also you
Mhm.
can be more intentional about your meeting. So make your meeting 45 minutes instead of 60 minutes, but
Yes.
then make it so that it's very dense and very purposeful.
Mhm.
Then you have 15 minutes to go to bathroom and all that in between.
Yes, yes. That makes sense. Or even, having a snack before and so that you're treating yourself to something
Mhm.
before you have to go do something hard. Well, Michelle, these are all such great things that I think when we think of burnout or we think of, burnout is such a hot topic because I think people of all walks of life experience it. Or we even think of just well-being, on how can I be a better version of myself. I feel like both of the things that you've specialized in can be used by individuals, without the approval of a boss, right? I mean, just really we're responsible for our work area, we're responsible for our time. And certainly there are, like I said, there are things we can't not do. But what you're talking about are two ways that you can equip yourself or leaders in the work or employees in the workplace on reducing, the burnout that they might feel. And
Mhm.
so they're so helpful. Now, I'm going to ask you one last question. So, if you were talking to a leader in an organization whose team is showing signs of frustration and disengagement and burnout, what would your approach be? Or what would you recommend to that leader in order to start doing some small things that could help their team today?
Yeah. So I think what I would say first is that leader, they need to look at their life, right? And then
Mm,
make sure they're taking care of, that they do
yes.
their self care. and what's missing for them, because often what happens, the leader shows up in the organization.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
That's great. I think you're totally right. We set the examples of as a leader on how organized we are and how calm we are under pressure, right? So
mhm,
it
mhm.
starts with us for
Right.
sure.
Yeah. And then whatever they sow that they change, that may be what the rest of the company need, right? It may or may not be. But I feel like when people have more space, the leaders
Mm,
or even the workers, when they have more space, they have capacity for creativity and productivity. And
mhm.
like I
Yeah.
said, when people are just getting, like all these things tacked on top of it,
They just pile on top of each other, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's when the burnout happens. So
Mhm.
my recommendation for everyone is make sure your employee has time to be able to either release things or be
Mhm.
able to, like I said, look at them and see if their time need to be co-married, or if their meeting needs to be co-married,
Mhm.
right? Or
Mhm.
maybe their network needs to be co-married. So it's
Yes.
not about adding more, but maybe it's about taking things out and just
Mhm.
keeping things that spark joy for them. Because you know how when
Yeah.
we're doing things that exciting for us,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter how much work we need to put in, right? We have so much energy, and that's the opposite of
Yes.
burnout. So
Mhm.
really looking at what it is that your employee need. But I would say look at yourself first to take care of
Mhm.
themselves. And then from there, I would say releasing and then also choosing what sparks joy for the leader and the employee too.
Great. Well, this has been so helpful. And honestly, I am leaving this episode that with two things that I want to look into more for my own well-being. And I think Reiki and KonMari could help me with my mental clutter and my energy, and then also that physical space that I'm in. So I just really appreciate you bringing two unique perspectives to a widespread problem that I hear people talk about all the time in the workplace. And I say workplace, but it doesn't have to be in a building. It could absolutely be, a stay at home parent, or it could be, somebody who, even has a job that is in the service industry or something, right? We're not always talking about office clutter. We're definitely talking about just the life within our life, however that looks.
Yeah. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for having me. It was so much fun sharing this with you.
Yes, thank you, Michelle. Thank you for coming. And if people want to get a hold of you, I'm imagining that you have a website and
Yes.
LinkedIn,
Yes.
probably Instagram.
Yes.
Anything else that you want to share with the listeners, I'm happy to put it in the show notes. And this episode will be released really soon. So thank you very much for your time. And I hope that everyone got as much out of it as I did.
Thank you so much. That was so much fun.